Alright, so for the rings, we have these Hastings piston rings. They come with manual. Well, even with these glasses I don't see anymore, guys. Look for a dot or a laser mark on either side of the ring gap to determine which side of the ring is the top side. A ring with no top or laser mark will signify ring can be installed either way. Top does not indicate the piston ring groove location. Okay, so top indicates that's the top of the ring, not the top groove. So here though we have top, second, third oil and oil. Okay, so these we're not gonna do anything with, but with these we're gonna have to dedicate them to certain cylinders. This one has a dot. I don't know if you can see it, but it has a dot here, which indicates what's the top side, and on the bottom it has a groove. I don't know if you can see it here. Like the profile is not a rectangle, it has a missing corner. So that goes at the bottom and the dot goes on the top. So this is our second. Let me see. So this is the first one. Again, it has dot at the top, but it has a square profile. So it doesn't have the groove. So the top ring is with square profile, the second ring is with, I don't know what is it called. It's not a chamfer, it's like a groove on the side, whatever. So this is our top and this is our second. So, as you know, the rings have a gap, and when the ring goes into the cylinder, this gap should be within certain limits here. Because if it is too big, obviously there's going to be a lot of blow-by, but if it is too small, as it warms up, you know, metals expand, so when it expands, it's possible that the two ends touch, and then of course, from the tension, it's gonna snap or it's gonna wear our cylinder in a bad way and whatever. So I looked at the manual and it says for the first, it's between 12 and 17 thou, and for the second, it's between 8 and 13 thou. So how do we measure this gap? All right, so we are the first cylinder. Here I cleaned up the surface, the gasket surface with Scotch-Brite a little bit and WD-40, and also the cylinders where I had some flush rusted surfaces. I cleaned them up with Scotch-Brite and WD-40. So now we can start fitting our rings. So this one is the top one. It has the dot here, so we're gonna put it like this. And now to make sure that it is exactly perpendicular to the axis of the cylinder, I don't know if that's a term, we're gonna push it down with a piston. We're gonna take our first piston and push it down, maybe this much, and now we know that it is positioned perfectly. So now, I don't know if you see the gap from there, we can take our filler gauges. I'm gonna take my, let's say, what do we need to be between 12 and 17 thou? I'm gonna take 16 thou, and let's see. Well, we're more like 18 thou. Let's test number 2. So that's the second ring for the first cylinder. The same thing, 18. Both gaps are a little bit bigger, but there's nothing I can do, so that's how we're gonna leave them. So if the gap is too small, you can take a file and stick it into a vise and then go, and both sides of the ring you can just drag up and down a few times and make the gap bigger. But when the gap is already bigger and you want to make it small, there's no other way than machining the cylinders out and whatever. But I think they're fine. I actually think that before I was looking at 20 to 23 thou, something like this. You know what? I'm gonna go double check with the manual and see if I can find some more information somewhere else. Alright, so this is what the situation is. I measured the rest, and some of them are 17, which is the limit. We'll talk about the limit actually. These are within the limit. This is a little bit bigger as the first one. This was a little bit smaller, but this one was a lot. This one was 19. As we know, cylinder number 6 is a little bit bigger than the other cylinders. So this was 19, but then I took this from here, which was 16 here, and put it here, and here it measures 18. Somewhere between 17 and 18 now. And this 19 from here, when I put it in number 5, it measures 18 now. So now we're good. 18, 17, 17, 18, 18, 17 or 8. So the gap, according to the Bentley manual, like I said, is 12 to 17 for the top ring, and then for the second ring is between 8 and 13 thou. But I went into forums. I don't have the Haynes manual, but people said there that the Haynes manual shows 12 to 17 for both top and bottom. And no one is talking about different gaps for the second ring. As you can see here, they're pretty much the same, 17, 17, 17, 17, 18, 17, the same as the top one. So I'm sure that somewhere along the way, this 8 to 13 fell apart. So they're making the first and the second ring the same now. Many people said that they experienced the same thing, that their gap is a little bit bigger. Some are going even to 20 thou. You know, I believe what I want to be the truth, so I'm gonna go with that. I'm not gonna do anything other than that. We're gonna start putting them on the pistons now, as they are here. We're not gonna mix them up anymore. They are dedicated to cylinders. Okay, so this is our number 1, and let's put our rings here. So we're gonna start with the oil ring first, and then second, and then first. Like, there are special tools for this, but I don't think you need special tools. It is super easy to put them on. So we're gonna put this one in, and we're gonna go past the groove. We need to be out of the groove, just like that. Then we're gonna put this one in. So this one is going directly in the groove, like this. So this is where they meet. I'm gonna put this opening here now of this rail, this gap to the left, and the one on the other side, I'm gonna put it to the right of this, just so they are staggered. There you go. So now they are in, and now we can put our second. So here, this is the important part where we said the dot needs to be up. Again, I'm gonna make sure that I didn't mix them while fitting them. So this is the one with the groove here on the side. The dot is up, so that's my second. Again, it goes directly in the groove. Of course, you have to be very careful not to snap them, but I think that with the two there's a higher possibility to snap them. So this is there you go, it's in. And then number 1, the top one, again, have to find the dot. Here is the dot right here, so that's our top. That's how it goes. into the groove directly, clink, inside. So now, since we're not installing them yet, we're not gonna stagger them, but when we are installing them, we're gonna make sure that one is in this orientation, let's say, this one is on the other orientation, the gap. They are opposite to each other. So I'm gonna do the same with the rest of the rings, and we're gonna go from there. And then, okay, all the rings are on the pistons now, and I can start disassembling this shaft because it is almost the end of the day, so I can take it apart, and tomorrow I'm gonna bring assembly loop and we're gonna assemble it on the new shaft. All right, so you see that the rockers are handed. We have left-handed and right-handed. For each cylinder, they're facing into the center of the cylinder. Also, some of them have spacers here, as you can see. Some of them don't have spacers. I'm just gonna go through it slowly, that's for my reference. But also, when I'm taking it apart, I'm gonna stick everything on that piece of brake line here. No, I'm not gonna say what you thought I was gonna say. And this way we're gonna keep them in the same order. So there's a cotter pin, or split pin, as some would say, and a screw here on this side. So this screw is very important here because it keeps the shaft in such orientation that the oil passage here from underneath lines up with a hole on the shaft, and because the shaft is hollow inside, it distributes oil all over the place to the rest of the rockers, because the other pedestals don't have holes. That's the only one with a hole, and that's oil passage. That's why now we're gonna take this apart and we will see, but I'm expecting most troubles here. That I'm expecting that the shaft is worn here in the front because the oil travels from here and barely reaches there sometimes. But let's see. Some of the pedestals are actually, all of the pedestals were really in there. You saw what I had to do. So at some point I started disassembling from one side, and then I started disassembling from the other side, and I shoved the parts on another stick, so then I finally joined them together. And the last pedestal, I think it was this one, I had to really hammer the shaft out, otherwise it wouldn't go. So we have to clean them really nicely before we put them on the new shaft tomorrow. So all of the shafts that I've seen are mostly worn on this end, the opposite end of the screw hole, because like I said, this is the oil passage. So this is the screw hole, and that orients this hole to match the hole on the pedestal, and then oil goes inside the shaft, which is hollow inside, and oil travels left and right, goes to this hole and this hole and this hole, and as you can see, there's a little hole next to each of these channels. That's exactly where the rocker comes, and this channel also helps for the oil to get distributed around the whole shaft. But on this shaft, I'm surprised that actually the one next to the oil delivery, so going that way, this is worn. I don't know if you can see here, but there's a, you can hear how my fingernail gets stuck there. And that's right next to the oil passage. The ones in the center, surprisingly, are less worn than the ones on this side. This side, I'm not surprised, it's worn a lot. You see? Anyway, so that's the old shaft. We're gonna start assembling tomorrow on the new one. Okay, so here's our new shaft. And we're gonna do this. We're gonna install first this pedestal with the screw. We're gonna put the screw, and everything else we're gonna try to put from the other side. Wow, how are we gonna do that? Okay. Later we're gonna pull out this screw and we're gonna put Loctite on it. Now it's just temporarily to hold my shaft in place. So now we can start moving this to this shaft. And voila, one rocker shaft replaced. So before we forget, let's put Loctite here. Loctite, or what is this called? Thread locking agent. There you go. We want to do that because if this screw falls out as we're driving, it's gonna fall inside somewhere and it's gonna damage something in the tappets or whatever. And second, if this screw comes off and the shaft turns a little bit, that's gonna block the oil passage and the whole rocker shaft is gonna remain unlubricated. So, okay, now we have to put it somewhere and protect it because we don't want it to get dirty. And I know the perfect spot for it. I hope it fits. Look, it fits as if it belongs there. Alright, so next I'm really curious to find out now how much clearance there is between the valve and the valve guide when we have brand new valves and brand new guides. Let's fit them all first and then we're gonna measure the play. Ooh, fits like a glove. Ooh, that's something else. Well, now, if you're installing bronze valve guides, then for sure you're gonna have to rim them after that with a proper rimmer to the sides, because the bronze, it's pretty soft, so when you're pressing them in, for sure the diameter changes. So you have to install them and then rim them. But these are steel and they don't require anything, so that's good. Okay, you remember this setup? Yeah, that's how we're gonna measure again the valve to guide clearance. So we raise the valve a little bit and that's how much it plays now. That's like 1 or 2 thou. Okay, I like that. So anyways, I'm not gonna measure them all, but it comes to tell you that new parts are new parts. Alright, so in this case, we just need to relap the valves one more time, because you remember before, we lapped them, all of them, and then it turned out that we have too much play in the guides, so we needed to replace the valves and the guides, which means now we have to lap the new valves one more time, and that's it. Sometimes we work twice. So before we were using this, and I explained to you why, because I had a technique where I was using a drill and it was turning the valve in only one direction, and that wasn't very smart, because it's much better when you turn the valve left and right, because the compound, supposedly the particles mix inside and shuffle, and they don't go in the same grooves, let's say. But when you turn only in one direction, the particles fall into a channel and they just spin around in the same channel, and this channel becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's how you form lines. That's why I came to the conclusion that it is much better to go left and right and lift and go left, right, left, right, left, right, then lift again, and that's how you get to a smooth, nice surface at the end. But somebody commented, I can't remember the name, so I'm sorry, but somebody commented on my channel and told me about this tool, that it's available, you can buy it, and it goes in a drill. You see, it goes left, right, left, right, left, right. So that might help us. And it also comes with those cups, suction cups. So we're gonna pick one. I guess for the small valve we need this one. Yeah. And for the big one we need this one. Or we can go with the same one here. Yeah. I'm not gonna explain way too much about the process, because we've been there before. We lapped the valves before, so now we're just gonna start doing it. Before we start though, let's see. So this is cylinder number 6, and this is what it looks like. Like, it's not too bad because we already lapped valves once. Now it is important to lap them with these valves, because the angle might not match. If the angle of the bed and the valve are different, we're only gonna get one line here. That's pretty good, but you can't tell much from the valve seat. But look at the valve. It's nice and smooth and wide line. So this one is done. This here. Oh, that's some kind of a fiber. Okay. So first I let it spin all over to spread the compound around, and then we can do this, then let it spin again a little, then okay. Wow. Great, so it doesn't need much. It doesn't need much. So I'm just gonna do the rest quickly, and we're gonna move on to something else. Maybe we should install them. All right, they're all ready and they all look great. So now that they are matched, a valve to a seat, we shouldn't mix them up anymore. Next, we're gonna have to clean up everything and assemble them, but I just realized that I don't have my tool, the valve spring compressor. I'm gonna have to bring that from home. So for now, I'm just gonna put them in the container, and we're gonna leave the head to the side. Now we can actually start assembling the engine. That's exciting. fantastic. Alright, so now that the head is ready to be assembled, we have all the valves and everything lapped, we have new valve guides, we have all the springs and everything here. We only need a tool so we can compress the spring. So in this case, we can start assembling the engine. And to assemble the engine, we have some preparation. Yep, assembling the engine is exciting, so we're gonna start a brand new fresh video on that subject, and we're gonna put an end to this one here. So thanks for watching, guys, thanks for commenting and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.